is 8:15. You're watching Extra Shot. Oh, we're hot off morning blend. In case you didn't catch us, 5 to 7 today. You have the rest of your life to catch us, right? Every single morning. Yes, join us. The rest of your life, as long as we're on the air. But yeah, here at 8:15 we do Extra Shot. We go in on the trending topics. So thanks for joining us. You can go in on the comment section of this post right below us right now. We're going to start off with Patagonia and how they're celebrating women. They have been for the last, I don't know, couple of decades. I love that the female, the CEO is a female. But talk to us, Dina. This is a story that's hits close to home for you because obviously you love the brand Patagonia. Talk to us more about the brand, though.
Okay, so Patagonia is a big outdoor company. It's kind of like the North Face or Columbia sportswear.
Outdoorsy, women, men. Something I do not own a piece of Patagonia, by the way.
Neither do I.
It is a little expensive.
Even know what it was.
Is it?
I will
say.
It's
like the Lululemon of yogis?
It's pretty expensive, yeah. But I grew up in Reno mostly, and in Reno they have like a discount store, so that's where. So it was always nice to get them on sale. But anyways, so that's kind of more about the brand. So it's an outdoorsy type company, and the CEO is a really big fan of having childcare centers on site for the employees. And so in Reno this week, I think yesterday is when they made the official grand opening of a new childcare center in one of the buildings that they have there. This is something they've been doing in Patagonia for several decades, as you said, Megan, since I think the late 80s. And the CEO said that part of the reason why women are able to move up into higher ranking positions within the company is because they are offering childcare on site. Fewer women are leaving for maternity leave and then deciding to stay home. More women are coming back to work because they know their kids can be there with them. So I want to say a quote that she gave to the Reno Gazette Journal. She said, "When CEOs talk to me and say, how can I get more women on my board? How can I get more women in management? I say, start with a child care center." And then one of the human resources members of this team also said 100% of our moms return to work. He said that's compared to the national average of about 45%.
Really?
So I'm curious to hear from all of you. Would it have made a difference if your employer offered the child care center for you? Maybe you decided to stay home a little longer. Do you have this already? Tell us where you're working and where they're already doing this. But I thought it was a great story, good idea.
Yeah, I can see how we say this every time if you're new to our little show here. You know, none of us are mothers on this panel, but we appreciate the work that the women have to go through, you know, to raise these kids in addition to men, and then go back to work as well, and that work-life balance. We all plan to be mothers, and for me, I can see how, because I have a lot of people in my life who have kids, and how, you know, that is absolutely the most important job you will ever have in your entire life. And how do you balance that? And I can see how these women leave to take care, they go on maternity leave, and then it just doesn't seem feasible to leave the kids with someone. That's your child, to leave them with someone and have to go back to work. And so many women do that in this world, in this country. All the respect to them, but I could see how it would be an easier decision to say, okay, if I know that my kid's just downstairs or maybe on the same floor, right around the corner, I would go back to work and have peace of mind and be able to have that balance.
And aside from that, let's really talk about childcare. It's very expensive. So while a lot of moms don't necessarily want to leave their kids with strangers, they don't have family in the area that can kind of chip in and help out, some women don't go back to work because it's either go back to work and pay $1,200 a month for your kid to go to daycare,
what's more affordable,
or I just have to stay home so I can take care of the baby, so we don't have to foot this house payment for my kid to go somewhere for 5 hours a day. You know, so it's very expensive, and I think of this, and it's a totally different situation, but kind of related. In high school, I went to Flint Central High School in Flint, Michigan. At one point, we had a huge number of teen pregnancies, and at one point, it got to the point where the discussion was, so many girls were getting pregnant and leaving school that they ended up putting a daycare facility in school, in the high school. So what it did was, and some people were like, well, you're promoting teen pregnancies. No, not necessarily. What you're doing is promoting education, because instead of the child who is a mother saying, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, it's hard for me to go to school and raise a child, the children would be in the daycare facility all day, and then the mom would have to take classes like child care classes that will involve her spending time with the kid, and classes about nutrition.
Was it publicly or privately funded?
This was a public school. It was publicly funded. It was at our high school only, and I mean, it really helped. It changed the dynamic for young moms to say, you know what, I'm not boxed out, and it doesn't mean that I have to end my life because I have this baby. I can interact with my child all day, still get my education, and still learn about how to raise my kid and be a good mother. So I think wherever you can help people, moms, you just got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and I think part of the whole discussion too, I mean, I'm considered in the kind of upper end of the millennial group, and I have a lot of female friends who have decided not to go back to a corporate job after having kids because it didn't work for them and the lifestyle they wanted to have with their kids. So a lot of them are starting their own business, becoming bloggers, starting online-based businesses, and so people are finding ways around the corporate world, at least in my wheelhouse and at least in my little tribe that I have, because they want to be able to spend more time with their kids. And I wonder if we're kind of going back almost in time. I think a long time ago, my grandparents' generation, the mom stayed home. My grandma was home with all the 6 kids. Then my mom became a mom. It was kind of the age of the working mom. The hamburger helpers, the quick meals, the microwavable dinners came out, and mom went back to work. Dad helped around the house, and it was kind of the transitional, okay, we're going to co-parent. Now I almost wonder, and help me understand if you agree or not, if we're going back to women wanting to stay home with kids again, or women wanting to have a little bit more of the work-life balance, which sometimes means you can't go back to the corporate job. Are we almost going back a little?
And it seems like, and it was interesting you bring that point up. I remember I went to USC in college, and there was on National Women's Day, they had this big conference with corporate leaders. And they had, you guys know the jewelry brand, it's not as popular now as it was years ago, Cookie Lee. So Cookie Lee, well, yes, it's a jewelry brand, but there's also a woman named Cookie Lee who's behind the brand.
Right.
And she went on to explain how, and it's going off of what you're saying, Dina, it's an every other generational thing. She was talking more about the latchkey kid generation.
Okay.
So it was the same thing because she was a latchkey kid where she came home and she had to feed herself, raise herself after school because mom and dad were at work until, you know, whatever hour. Then she wanted to make sure that when she became a parent, she was more available, more of what became more of a helicopter mom, right? Do they call it that now? And then because those kids are going to start growing up feeling like they're too protected, like they don't have any freedom, then those kids will grow up and want to be more like, give my kids some freedom. So maybe that latchkey generation will come back. So it's this every other generational thing. So you have a point, and I think maybe, you know, I think we're making strides moving forward and saying, yes, work-life balance is absolutely possible for women. But I love the quote where, and I don't know who's exactly said this first, but women can have it all. They just can't have it all at the same time, all at once rather. They can't have, you know, you're going to have different points in your life where you can stay home and be a mother, but then know that the availability to go back to work is still there should you want to go back. But I would love to live in a generation where a majority of women can and feel like they can do both at the same time, raise their kids and have a corporate job. And I think this woman, the CEO of Patagonia, is since the 80s, if she's been doing this. I mean, I would love to see more companies do it. I would love in the world of journalism. And I don't know, Today Show, GMA, I'm not sure if they have daycare centers, but I look ahead, you know, to my future and wherever that may be and go, I want to be a mother so bad. I also want to be very successful in my early morning career. You know, who do I leave the kid with? Who's going to be available at that hour?
Right.
But I think, and I think though we are becoming, we're part of a time where we can at least ask for those things. Because the difference when our moms were raising us, they couldn't go to their boss. It was taboo to say, I'm a working mom and I would like a little flexibility with my job. Possibly work from home 2 days out of the week, do X, Y, and Z, whoop-de-woo. That you couldn't do that back then. And if you could, you were extremely lucky. But now, I think with things changing like this story with the daycare center at the office, and then you have more people requesting work-life balance and demanding that they be able to work from home and then not potentially taking a job because they don't have that flexibility. I think we are in a better situation where we can at least, even if we can't have it, we're not afraid to ask for it anymore because we
necessarily lose a job.
And then I think, and that ties into the whole idea of when you think generational, millennials switch jobs on average every 2 to 3 years. So I think the attachment that once was to, I need to go to work and I can't lose my job and this is what it is. I think that's becoming a little more flexible in the work-life balance, like you guys said, is becoming
choosing
more
a career that makes sense for your
forefront.
What's best for your child, what's good for your best for your life, what's best for you.
And that's part of the CEO. She did say, the Patagonia CEO, that part of the reason why women are moving up is because they're choosing to stay at the company and then move up from there.
And that's a benefit to the company in the same breath as it is to the woman.
So as a millennial, where we're changing jobs every 2 to 3 years, trying to find the next best thing, some people think we're entitled and it's not good enough and we deserve more. This particular CEO is saying, I know that the only way to move up is to invest time, invest years. So she's allowing these women to have the opportunity to bring their kids to work at the daycare. I want to bring in some of your comments.
Yes, I see them. Good point there.
Marianne Sabedra says, I have 4 kids and it was so hard to go back to work for maternity leave each time. It's hard to leave a helpless baby at childcare and spend the whole day away from them. It would make it easier if there was a daycare center in the workplace. Bonding and breastfeeding, of course, are all things that women want to be able to do, at least through the first few months of the kid's life.
Marianne, excuse me, Marianne Sabedra says, I have 4 kids.
That's what I read.
Oh, that's what you just read right here. Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Let's see, Jennifer, it's about making these best decisions, not just for yourself, but your child. Okay. All right. I know John Brassfield, I was distracted by that. He said, boring. So for some
He also
for
asked
some
where
men,
last man standing was. Sir, we don't know.
last man standing, yes, it is. Yeah, no, we're not sure. We are not corporate ABC at this point. But yeah, we're talking about this today because obviously it affects us and for men as well. I mean, if you live in a household where there's a woman as well and she's trying to figure it out, like I think it's important to have those conversations with your husband, your partner, whoever that may be, because these are some things that maybe they don't necessarily have to go through, but we have to think about.
And my husband, he works for another affiliate and he's going to get to go cover the Olympic Games.
Nice.
And it's amazing, but he's going to be gone for a month and I'm so excited for him, but I'm thinking, if we had a kid at home, this probably would have changed the outcome for him if he would have been able to go or not, at least in the certain stage of having a child.
You guys have opposite schedules, so I would imagine that having a child would, you make it work, right?
Yeah,
but it would work for you guys because it's kind of like, okay, your turn. Tag, you're it. Tag, you're it.
But if part of that might be hard.
Right. But if he's gone.
Right. And Margie, before we wrap up this conversation, I want to say your comment. Margie says, being a young mom was super hard. Stay home if you can afford to. The hardest was leaving the babies. And I'm sure that is something we're all going to be experiencing at some point. So thanks for weighing in, guys.
Yes. All right.